Hi folks, Paul Jennings here and welcome to the Piping Show brought to you by the National Piping Centre in Glasgow, Scotland. My guest today is Hazel Whyte, who's an incredible player. She's been into the instrument since she was 7 years old. We'll get to her later and I think you're really going to enjoy the chat. But first of all, I'd invite you to like this video, share it with your friends, and please do subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, because it really does help us reach people around the world. So we'll get to Hazel in a little bit, but of course now we'll go to Helen Urquhart with this week's news.
The Scottish Pipers Association have extended the entry deadline of their junior competition to this Sunday, the 26th of February. The event itself takes place on Saturday, the 18th of March. Details of the event and entry are at www.scottishpipersassociation.co.uk/juvenile-competition. The Competition League for Amateur Solo Pipers' latest live online event took place on Saturday the 11th of February, with over 200 entries over 5 grades for a great day of piping. The results of this event will be announced live on Thursday the 5th of March on the CLASP Facebook page. The National Piping Centre is looking for a piper host to guide tours around our museum this summer. For more information, check our website or email shopmanager@thepipingcentre.co.uk. We'll be taking applications for this post until Friday the 10th of March.
Hello there. A big part of what I do as a researcher is going and finding information on my own, but also making sure that people who are interested in finding out their own information have the resources to do that. We've talked about that previously on this show through the Piping Centre's online archive database of the Piping Times. A number of times in the last couple of weeks, I've been queried about how I'm so quickly able to find tunes and where they're published. And so I want to share with you an online resource called the Robert P. Carr Tune Index. Now, Robert P. Carr is from my home country of America. He's a doctor in Jacksonville, Florida, and as an amateur player, studied under Jimmy McIntosh, Murray Henderson, and a number of other famous teachers. However, his, in my opinion, greatest contribution to piping is his Tune Index, which originally was published as a book that had a list of tunes and where you could find them published. However, that index is now available online as a searchable engine and is probably, definitely, in the top 3 resources that I use in my research. So I'm just going to walk you through how to find that resource and how to use it. So using the browser of your choice, go ahead and search for the Robert P. Carr, and that's P-E-K-A-A-R, Tune Index. That will bring you to Patrick McLaurin's website, which is in and of itself worth a look. At the very top, there's a link. Click here to access the Bob P. Carr's Tune Index. And here you can search for whatever tune you like by title, composer, book number. The books are all numbered within this collection. Page number, tune type, time signature, number of parts. So let's think about a title of a tune. Why don't we look for Blair Drummond? And here it brings up the tune title, brings up the composer, if one's available, the book that it's in, the page number of the book that it's in, the tune type, so here is Strasbe, the time signature, of course, 4/4, the number of parts, which for Blair Drummond would be 6, and the reference for the book it can be found, or website. So you could find it at pipetunes.ca, which is an online resource. You can go ahead and just click online over under page number. Or you can say, oh, I see it's available in Pipe Major Willie Ross's collection of Highland Bagpipe music, Book 1. And beyond that, once you pull out that Book 1, you know that it's on page 39. Additionally, if you're interested in maybe searching for tunes by a given composer, say you've been researching Peter MacLeod, you can type his name into the search engine, and it brings up all the tunes written by, in this instance, Peter MacLeod and Peter MacLeod Jr. I feel like I've just given away one of piping's best kept secrets, but it's a hugely useful resource, and I encourage you to bookmark it in your browser. I certainly have on every device I own. I'd like to say a big thanks, if you're watching, Robert, for putting together what is one of the most useful resources in all of piping.
Hazel, How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
Good, thank you. Welcome to the Piping Show.
It's good to be here.
So I guess the first thing that what we normally ask on the Piping Show, which is an obvious question, is how, like, from what I've seen of you, you're like right into the pipes. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, piping has taken over my life.
Right.
Everything, eat, sleep, breathe pipes now, so yeah.
And how did that start? Was there like a moment where you saw a piper or you saw something and you were like, that's for me?
Yeah, so it all stems back to Forest Highland Games. We were up on holiday one year and went along to Forest Highland Games just for a wee day out.
Right.
So I must have been about 5 or 6 at this point, and I basically sat at the side of the arena and watched the pipe band contest the full day. So my mum was like, come on, we'll go and see the dancers or go and see the heavy events. No, sat and watched pipe, and she went home from holiday and all that was on her camera was photos of pipe bands. So yeah, we went home.
That you had taken?
Yeah, that I had taken.
Right, okay.
So we went home and I was just like, I want to do that. I want to learn the pipes. So both mum and dad were very much like, you'll never stick at it, you'll never do it.
That's encouraging.
And yeah, I think that's maybe been something that's quite a determined person in general. So it's maybe been something that's pushed me to prove a point more than anything. And then I just kind of fell in love with it and enjoyed it.
Was there like a particular thing with the pipes that made it enjoyable, or was it just? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think more than anything it's just been, or that I can think of, it's just the sound of them.
Yeah.
I can't exactly say, thinking back to that day at the Highland Games, that the bands I was hearing, I don't remember exactly who I heard playing things, but it's just the sound that I was drawn to, and then after it, like, yeah, especially solo piping when you've got a set of pipes and the drones are locked in, the chanter's absolutely singing, like, oh, it's good. It's good.
Singing, love it.
Absolutely singing, yeah.
So now you sort of took that journey through your childhood, and now you're at RCS in third year doing pipes.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Has it been just sort of a fluid journey, like since you got into it? The trajectory of you as a piper, it just is all kind of led from one thing into the next?
Yeah, so going through like secondary school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do some form of teaching.
Okay.
And at that point I was helping out with the North Lanarkshire Schools pipe band, who I played with for 7 years. So I wasn't really sure. And then I think it was about third year. I had quite a successful solo season that year, and then going back to school, they're starting to ask you what you want to do and things, and yeah, I just kind of fell in love with music at that point in general, and my music department at school were absolutely brilliant as well, and probably the reason that I'm here doing what I'm doing today is because of them and their influence, so
cool.
A big thank you to them. But yeah, I would say at that point it was then like, right, foot on the gas, keep powering on, and then it was quite difficult because knowing I wanted to do piping, nothing else really mattered, to be fair. It was then like, right, everything that I wanted to do was getting put into piping at that point, so yeah, just kept kind of pushing along, and then...
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I suppose it kind of just, everything to me, piping at that point was like, it was still the hobby, it was still done on the side, but it was fitting it in and competing at the highest level in the juniors certainly, but trying to manage everything around it. So it was quite challenging, and my mum and dad and my sister have sacrificed a lot for me to get where I am today. So like, if they hadn't came to all the contests and put up with me the hours of practice in the house and taken me to lessons and things, then I wouldn't be here. So yeah, there's definitely been a lot. It's not been easy, and there's been challenges, so like schoolwork and exams and things, so obviously being a determined person, it didn't matter if it was piping or not, you still want to do your best. So yeah, there was a lot of time, even at contests, I'd be sitting in a solo contest, have played, be waiting for results or whatever, and I'm sitting doing maths homework and stuff.
Of course.
It was using every minute of every day.
But really deep down, all you wanted to do was
play the pipes all day, every day.
Yeah. I had a similar thing with drumming, because I'm a drummer, and I had the same thing. Well, I did a workshop. I probably told this story at the RCS the other day, but for me, when I got into drums, it was the same thing. I was like that was all I wanted to do, you know. And so it's quite hard, especially when you're that age, when you're like a teenager and like you've got people throwing maths homework at you and all sorts of other stuff, but all you want to do is, you know, the music. So, and
I suppose I still had that part of behind me of that determination that I was there not to prove a point at this point. By this point, I just enjoyed doing it, but there was still that wee bit of a no, I'm going to keep going, and you make it work. Yeah.
So I saw a video of you a while back playing in the hydro. What was that about? You were like the first, was it after the lockdown, quote unquote, you were like the first person to play in there or something like that? Because there's this great video of you. What was that?
So I'm sure it was 2021. So I was asked through the National Youth Pipe Band of Scotland if I would play the closing concert for Celtic Connections. That was the 2021 Celtic Connections that was all online. So I don't even think they had a 2020. I don't think they'd done anything that year. Stephen approached. I was in the youth band, I'm still in the youth band.
What's the cut-off?
25, I think.
So you got a
couple of years to go.
Right, okay, good.
So Stephen approached us and was like, got this pretty cool opportunity coming up if you fancy doing it. So, yeah.
He knew that you were the person for it.
It was actually quite nice because the year or 2 years previous at the 2019 Celtic Connections concert, the youth band played the pipe band concert that year.
Okay.
And we done Hector the Hero as a set. So I played the solo for that in the Royal Concert Hall. So it was quite nice because then we done Hector the Hero and the Bloody Fields of Flanders and the Hydro. So it was kind of that tying it all together and linking it together. But no, it was a pretty good opportunity.
Great.
To be the first person to play in the Hydro in 2 years.
And it's a cool looking video as well.
Yeah, so we had the dancers in as well, which was, it was quite strange, like playing and having people dancing around you.
In this huge space.
Yeah, where the sound just absolutely fills the air and you can't really hear what
when
you're
it's
playing.
Empty, it must be crazy with the pipes, because it would all be slapping back and you'd be like, where the hell am I in this tune, or, you know. And I saw another video of you with it was Helen brought my attention to it here at the Piping Centre. It's you with some kind of like monster puppet. And I just saw a little clip of it. Was it for like CBBC or something? Yeah,
CBBC. So Stanley the Monster, which is Saturday mashup. So it's like a Saturday morning programme for kids. So I was asked if I would do this video. So Stanley was doing a tour of Scotland at this point. So
the Monster?
The Monster.
Okay.
So he had been to different like locations and they had filmed and he wanted to learn the bagpipes. So that's why he came to Glasgow.
And came to you.
And came to me to learn the pipes. So that was a very interesting video.
It looked, from what I saw,
Yeah, so obviously it's a puppet.
Yeah.
So there's a guy like lying on the floor. So there was quite a few shoots of that done because at times you realise you're talking to this like stuffed hand puppet.
Yeah.
And you're actually teaching or trying to teach this puppet that's got no fingers the bagpipes. So it was pretty cool.
That's got no fingers.
It was one of those ones that it was an interesting film project.
Interesting experience for CBBC.
CBBC. So that went out and I had actually quite good feedback from it. But I knew at that point, that day, my acting career had started and ended on the same day and I would just stick to the teaching instead. So
right.
Yeah. And it was set to some extent. So like it is scripted and stuff of what you've got to say. But
and how old were you when you did that?
That was only... I'm going to say this year it was a year out, so I must only have done that like a year or 2 years max. So I would have been like about 18 at the time.
So just before uni?
Yeah, so I might have just started. Yeah, I honestly don't know.
It's fine.
I might have just been at uni.
Okay.
And I done it, but it was during kind of
Hilarious.
still COVID times when
Right.
everyone started to wear masks and everything. So yeah, it was in recent years. It wasn't like that long ago.
Okay. So now you're in third year at the RCS. Is it trad music? What's the obviously, like, I'm a bit of a layman when it comes to piping because I don't play. But is it a piping course, or is it part of the trad course?
Yeah, so the official name of the course that I'm doing is Bachelor of Music Trad Piping.
So it's got the add-on.
It's a separate course.
Okay.
However, we do a lot with the trad department, and a lot of our classes are together, and then we've got our piping specific.
And a
classes
lot
as
of that
well.
happens here
Yeah.
at the piping centre.
Yeah, so like Colbeg and Pembroke Pit, we both do externally at the piping centres.
Cool. And so, what you're working on a dissertation at the moment, are you?
My research project.
Your
for
research
third year,
project,
yeah.
and what's that?
So now I'm looking at Ontario-based composers and their influence on the 78th Highlanders pipe band. So very Canadian-based.
Okay.
So my four main composers are Michael Gray, Bruce Gandy, Bill Livingston and Bob Worrell. So looking at the influence that their tunes had on the band from I think 81 when Bill took over as pipe major through to 97. Don't quote me on those dates. But I'm pretty sure around that time frame, all Bill, Michael, Bruce, they all played in the band under...
Which band?
And the 78th Frasers.
And that's like a well-known
Grade
Canadian.
one,
That's like
yeah.
sort of. Would that be in the same? Again, forgive my. But would that be in like the same league as like your Simon Fraser?
Yeah.
On the other side of the country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you're Simon Fraser, and then over here you're like Inverary, Field Marshal, Scottish Power, so it's up in the top of the league.
That's like the NFL
yeah.
of
Of
right.
piping.
Okay.
Yeah, so with all three of them being in the band, it's been at the time that I'm looking at in the kind of 80s, it's been interesting. So we're still digging,
Cool.
still gathering some information, but it's setting out to be a pretty interesting project in general.
And so, moving forward in your life as a piper, what is, I guess at this point, I guess it's, you never know how things are going to go, but what's your kind of like, what are you aiming for?
So at this point in time, I'm looking at doing teaching when I come out of conservatoire.
Cool.
So I'm not sure yet. It could go either way, just depending whether we go down the more piping route, peripatetic teaching in the schools, or even looking at classroom teaching. So I've got a background of alto saxophone, and I started piano when I started uni as well.
Cool.
So yeah, I've got quite a mix of influence. It's not all Scottish trad,
Not
I would
all
say.
Pembroke.
Not all Pembroke. So don't get me wrong, I mean, I have tried playing some Pembroke on the piano and
On the
played
sax.
some marches on the sax and stuff, so
Yeah.
it's interesting, yeah.
Well,
And right now it's quite a current topic on like the jazz influence in trad, so
Yes.
we'll see where
Are you familiar with Paul Towndrow,
No.
the saxophone player? He, I did photos for him at his Celtic Connections gig, and he's a saxophone player he's just started playing whistle as well, and I think Ross Ainsley has been teaching him, but I saw the gig he did, but he's an incredible sax player, like jazz sax player,
Yeah.
but he's also now writing tunes and stuff like that. He'd be an interesting one to check out.
Yeah.
What kind of sax do you play, like jazz?
It was all very, I'd say classical to an
Okay.
extent, but just doing it through school and doing it through my grades. And
So it'd be like an
Yeah.
ensemble,
Um,
orchestral kind of school
yeah,
thing.
so I played in like the concert band through school, and I do miss it.
Yeah.
Do miss it big time. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully,
So you could see yourself being like a teacher in high school of music,
Yeah.
but then also maybe teaching pipes. And do you ever delve into the kind of like folky band thing, or is that not something that's on your radar?
I mean, I think right now I'm quite focused on the solo piping,
Yeah.
and playing in band, to be fair. Yeah, folky stuff, I like listening to it, and
Yeah.
I enjoy that kind of the session atmosphere and things, but right now it's just maybe not my main focus.
Totally.
So yeah, I think definitely it's more of a teaching career than a performance career to an extent at this point.
Hazel, thank you so much for joining us on the Piping Show.
Thank you for having us.
I think you're going to go on to amazing things with the pipes, and we wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you.